This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to cover the story recently that Apple has come out and announced its plans to expand to 6G technology. Apple's connection, of course, with the mark of the beast, and of course the Internet of Bodies. These are all things that people need to know about and understand how they have been slowly conditioning and desensitizing people to putting technology inside of their bodies. And Apple is now focusing on 6G. And a lot of the times I've talked about what I interpret and believe the mark of the beast with transhumanism to be will have something to potentially do with Apple. And of course, this has to do with getting technology inside of your skin, embedded in your genetic code and your DNA, which will alter you as a human being. You will no longer be a human being. You'll be transformed into human and machine, okay? Mixing of iron and clay. And one of the things that's out there now is about how Apple is moving forward with 6G. And what's important to note about Apple is one of those trusted brands. And I think that the trusted brands, there's a lot to that, a lot to the comfort in a trusted brand versus a different, like a low budget brand that you would see on QVC. And you'd say, well, I'd rather get the Apple. The Apple won't break. It'll last longer. And Apple being one of the faces of potentially initiating or rolling out the mark of the beast. Now, a lot of people don't believe in that. Some people believe it's Sunday law. There's a lot of theories about the mark, but it's very important to note about what would happen with people if they do connect this type of technology to their body. I've covered so many things revolving the World Economic Forum and them openly talking about 6G being inside of your body. We've talked about the Internet of Bodies. So let's start here with Apple real fast, because I know there's a lot of new people who are finding the channel. So if you've been around the channel, it's always good to just catch up and remember some of these things so that you could show other people, right? We know that Apple, the logo of Apple is supposed to represent the bite from the forbidden fruit, okay? People are like, well, it doesn't say specifically it's an apple. That's what it is representing. That's what the logo is for. Somebody didn't just bite an apple and say, this should be your company logo, the biting of an apple. It's representing the forbidden fruit. The first Apple computer sold for $666.66. Here's out of the mouth of Wozniak himself with a little, what do you call, a poop-eating grin at the end, trying to pretend and play off the fact that that first computer sold for $666.66. This is one of those things when I tell people, this is why I'm repeating it. This is one of those things I tell people, when I tell people about that, their light bulb goes off in their head about why was the first Apple computer, about technology, about the mark of the beast. It makes them very, very intrigued and suspicious, and they start actually kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole. So this might be something that you could use. But here he is himself talking about that wonderful little tidbit in the Apple computer being sold for that price.
Paul Terrell, he owned a store in Mountain View. He'd seen me for quite a long time demonstrating my computer. So Steve Jobs went in to sell him some of our little boards that we built for $20. He said, no. People want to come in, they want to buy it pre-built. They want to buy the thing ready to go. It cost us $250 to build maybe. We'd sell it for $500. And then the retail price was $666.66 because I, as a mathematician, like repeating digits. And that was what it should be.
Okay, so that's Steve Wozniak, who doesn't get as much credit or attention as obviously Jobs, as Gates, these other people involved with the normalization of technology. But yeah, that's Wozniak talking about it, obviously grinning at the end because they don't really have an explanation as to why they sold it for $666. Don't you think that if you were a new company and you were trying to sell something, especially back then, where people were more wise to stuff, where Christians were more looking for signs and things like that, they weren't completely dumbed down by the evangelical infiltrated CIA movement where the church started watering people down. They would hear the number 666 and they would be suspicious. Now it's like nobody even blinks anymore. I even talk to Christians who don't even know what the mark of the beast is, or who go to church every week because they don't talk about Revelation in church, right? So they didn't just pick it. Otherwise, they'd be like, well, why don't we do 777? Why don't we do 555 if our excuse is that we like numbers, or mathematicians who like repetitive numbers? Give me a break. Never heard of something so ridiculous in my life. Okay, if you're making a computer, the point is to try to sell the computer, not to scare people away. We know exactly why it was that price, and I believe that they do have a tie-in with the mark. And again, people who believe that it's Sunday law, which I don't understand. I mean, I understand what the concept is, but I don't understand how they believe, you'll be able to buy and sell without worship on Sunday. But that's okay to have a difference of opinion on these things, because one way or the other, I'll tell you right now, you do not want this technology inside of your body. So before I get into the Internet of Bodies and show you some of the things they've talked about and what it is, I want to talk about this article from Forbes talking about, and pretty much all of these media outlets covering how Apple is moving forward with a 6G modem. Now, you might remember in the past I've covered how the human body is going to serve as an antenna in the future to boost signals for 6G. Keep that in mind, okay? You're the source that's going to be generating and pretty much be an antenna for 6G technology. You're starting to connect the dots with this technology inside of your body and then being able to control it. So Apple's working at a fast speed to create a crucial component of the iPhone. It's claimed the modem. But while recent rumors have suggested that the project hasn't been going swimmingly, a new report says that it's not only striving to sort out the 5G modem, but it's already turning its attention to 6G. According to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, in his latest Power On newsletter, Apple is charging ahead with work on the modem that will work with current 5G cell towers. Right now, Apple uses modems made by Qualcomm, and it would like to make its own, just as it switched to its own silicon for the iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, and Mac. And you might have seen a lot of the videos I've done on Apple, because I've covered how they're transitioning people to having tech inside their body, right? From the phone to the Apple Lens. A lot of people don't even know about the Apple Lens. I've covered it many times. They try to roll out the Apple Lens, which was pretty much your phone on your retina, where you could see right out of your eye, you could see the interface of a phone. This is what we're headed towards with the Internet of Bodies and being connected to the Internet. You will literally see these things, and people are like, that's so cool. You don't have to look down anymore. They'll probably roll out propaganda about the dangers of looking down at your phone and walking into traffic and all this other stuff. So people and driving and texting, right? Just saying, oh, it could be right in your eyes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This has all been predetermined. The whole thing that they're trying to do is desensitize you to accept the type of technology. So the more they talk about it, the natural response at first is always a gasp and always, I'll never get that. Oh, that's extreme. I don't need that. I'm very comfortable with the way my phone is now. Right? But the more they beat it into you, the more you get desensitized and accepting of the new technology, the more you want the new technology. And as that continues to happen, you don't realize subconsciously that you're being groomed into accepting this tech. Then they put stories about other, how your phones are doing this or that, how we need to get away from the phones, and they convince people of all these things, right? Oh, we need to get away from the phones. They'll probably say even radiation with the phones. They'll probably come out and admit it finally. And people go, oh, but with this inside you, you won't have to worry about that. And they'll come up with some fake science to explain it, and everybody will listen. And of course, another thing they can do is cut off people who do not eventually have it. Like they've cut people off with flip phones, et cetera, and forced them into 5G networks, 4G, 5G, right? They're making you adapt. They're making you dependent on the technology where it's like, well, I don't really need a cell phone, but you do for a lot of things because you need to be able to bring up, for returns. They force people onto doing QR codes on their phones. You go to restaurants, you see how they've, I've seen some restaurants now, they don't even have menus anymore. They don't even hand you a menu. They want you to pull up the menu on your phone on a QR code. This is all done by design. This is how they start removing all these things, getting you used to it and dependent on the phone. So even people who aren't dependent on the phone, like me, they'll force you out. So you go to a restaurant, they'll be like, you got to pull up your phone. You're like, I don't have a phone. What? I'm not doing that. And then, they get frustrated. They go to the back and they find a menu for you. But eventually that won't be an option, right? I've gone places where to even enter, you have to have a phone QR code. And you go, I don't have one. And they get frustrated. They'll let you in for free sometimes because they don't even know how to deal with people who aren't adapted to the technology. But it's not about adapting to it. It's about refusing it. And that's really what people should be doing. But instead, they're forcing it on people. And at the same time, people have things that they love with their technology, like social media, et cetera. Even something like YouTube, they forced, cell phones. They forced you to do certain things with your phone to be able to get on your channel. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. To even create a channel, it's more restrictive. It's more, you have to have a phone number, can't be connected to other accounts. This is all done by design, of course, probably to eliminate some YouTubers forever coming back, wink, wink. But also to get people dependent on like your phone being a source for you to access anything, right? And that's the Internet of Bodies, which I'm about to show you. So here's just some clips about the Internet of Bodies about 6G, because this is what everybody should be aware of. A lot of people are not aware of this going inside your body. A lot of people go, oh, that's a conspiracy, it'll never happen. And as they get desensitized to it, when it gets rolled out, they won't even connect the dots with what we're all warning about, because they'll just be like, oh, what you're saying is crazy. It's just an easier way to do it, right? Because that's what they'll subliminally be told over and over and over again. And they're talking about getting it in you, period.
Have such a good digital twin that you'll be able to go into the metaverse, into a virtual reality world, turn a dial, pull a switch, feel around, and actually change it in the real plant?
Absolutely. And this is not far off. I mean, the physical and the digital worlds they will grow together, and the result is exactly what you just said.
I wanted to ask when you all think we're going to move from this form factor to something that's on your face glasses and when computing's all on the edge.
All right, 50 seconds. Who wants to answer quickly?
I think it will go. It will. First of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface.
Wow.
Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
6G will liberate human potential. It will transform the way we live, the way we work, connecting human worlds, physical worlds with digital worlds. And that will unleash new human possibilities. We are proud to say that Bell Labs has actually done many pioneering innovations in the field of communications. The laser was invented here, the cellular network, the transistor, actually the basis of AI was laid here. And this proud history that has led to also Nobel Prizes and Turing Awards. And so we are already preparing for the 6G era. We actually already started with the research on 6G 2 years ago. You want to be 10 years ahead of the game before the commercial deployment. We cannot do this alone. You need the partners. We are now leading the very first flagship project for 6G, Hexa-X. If you think of what the different generations of networks enabled, 2G and 3G unleashed the potential of human mobility and connectivity. 4G unleashed the potential of information and social engagement with social media. 5G unlocked the potential of machines and sensing. And so what will 6G unleash? It will enable perfect knowledge of human world, connecting us with the digital world. 6G will enable holographic communication. It will be as if I'm teleported to your environment, like working on the same design, the same object, as if we are in the same room. 6G will enable us to offload mundane tasks from humans, things that machines do better, mental tasks, quality checks, to really unleash things that humans are best at, solving creative problems, strategic thinking. With 6G terahertz, we can not only do communication, but also use it as a sensing capability and do things that, for instance, cameras cannot do. See things around the corner. If you think of the billions of devices that are going to be connected, the 6G network needs to bring reliable services, high performance, do it in a sustainable way, and then also in a secure way. We always like to anticipate future human needs, understand the real hard problems and solving them in creative and disruptive ways. Our ambitions come with real game-changing innovations that define the future of communications.
I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface.
Wow.
Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
In the 20th century, wireless technology integrated with the human body was nothing more than science fiction. But today, Wi-Fi connected devices like heart rate monitors and sleep trackers have become common parts of American life. How has bionic technology evolved so quickly from science fiction to reality? And what could this Internet of Bodies mean for our lives moving forward? RAND researchers are studying this phenomenon and what consumers and policymakers need to know as we veer into uncharted territory.
The Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the internet that contain software and that either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about you. And in healthcare, Internet of Bodies has been around for quite a while. with the advent of the internet, it makes a lot of sense to connect your pacemaker to the internet so that your doctor can be automatically notified if something weird happens, if there's an anomaly. It's natural in a lot of ways to want to understand more about your body, how it functions, how well it's doing.
IOB devices could revolutionize healthcare. Unprecedented amounts of personal health data could inform treatment plans that are completely tailored to a patient's needs.
There are pills now that have an electronic sensor that let a healthcare provider know whether you have taken the medication. Other things like precision medicine. So precision medicine is the idea of creating pharmaceuticals or treatment like specifically for your body, for your personalized treatment. And I think IOB could really help with that, because nowadays a lot of healthcare is based more on, average reactions, whereas with data from IOB devices, you might be able to really more precisely treat a certain disease.
But the Internet of Bodies won't be a cure-all. In fact, the largely unregulated market poses risks to the uniquely sensitive data these devices collect.
First of all, there's the cyber risk of an actor potentially hacking into the system, whatever it might be. There's the privacy risk of all this data that's being collected, and the regulations about that data are really murky at the moment. And so there's not a lot of clarity into who owns the data, what happens to it, who it gets sold to, how it's being used. And there's even potentially national security and global security risks.
A few examples of these risks have already played out in real life. For instance, in 2018, highly sensitive information about U.S. military activity and base locations was inadvertently revealed by soldiers' fitness trackers. So, this is a pivotal moment. What can we do to make sure we reap the potential benefits of the Internet of Bodies without risking our privacy, security, and personal autonomy?
Consumers should be wary of IOB devices because as it's becoming more and more popular, all of this intimate data is being collected, arguably more intimate data than we've ever really recorded before. There's no clarity on what is being done with that data. With an old mechanical pacemaker, there's no data that was being collected and stored, and you could look at a history of someone's heart rhythms. Because policy tends to lag behind innovative technologies like this, it's probably up to the consumers and to the healthcare patients to really be aware of the devices that they're using and what is happening to their data, and to know what the regulations are in their particular state, because it does vary so much state by state. Even if you think you're not interesting or that nothing will happen with your data, there are a lot of unknowns that I think we need to be careful about.
So Apple rolling out 6G eventually here, right? They're talking about 2030 for the initiation. 2030's got a lot of symbology to it, right? A lot of things going down by 2030. But they're talking about 2030 being the goal to have this technology out there and implemented. So we all need to keep an eye on these types of things because it is crucial. It is crucial to warn people about the dangers of this. Now, you could have whatever your take might be on the mark, okay? And I do disagree fully with something. There could be a tie-in with worship on the, and I get it. People are like, well, you got to read the scripture. You're not interpreting scripture. There's always debates about these things. I don't like to get into a debate. I like to know all the information to process it. So at the same time, when it does happen, I won't be dumb enough to walk in and take the mark. I won't be sitting there trying to be self-righteous. But it's not that Sunday law thing. It's technology, the mixing of iron and clay. Okay, well, I won't do either of them. I won't do any of the above because I'm aware of all these things. So you should be aware of it. So even if you're somebody who sits back and you're like, it is Sunday law, I'm 100% positive. Okay, well, do not mix your flesh, do not mix your genetic code with this type of technology, because not only is it going to alter you as a human being, which how many times have we heard them talk about it changes you, from Klaus Schwab, et cetera. I just put up a video recently with the clips from Yuval Harari, et cetera, all these people talking about how it's going to change a human being, okay? It's going to change who you are because you're no longer going to be human. Your genetic code is going to be connected with technology. That's what this is, right? You hear them talking about it right there, talking about how, the Internet of Bodies, and then they use these things to make it seem like it's for your benefit, your health benefit, Oh, you could suddenly pull up all your documents without having to go through a filing cabinet. Oh, all these ridiculous things you wouldn't have to do anyway. Your birth certificate. Oh, they can't hack your ID. Nobody can steal your identity. It's you. It's in you. It's embedded in you. And you don't have to bring stuff. It's all wireless, paperless. It's all connected. All right? Think about Facebook, how it first started. Right? Connecting the world. That's what they're literally doing here with the Internet of Bodies. And Apple, I believe, is going to be at the forefront of all of this because that is your trusted brand. That is the brand. And I know we can look at Microsoft. We can look at Gates. I get it, even though Gates claims he's not there anymore. But Apple is that trusted brand. People always kind of looked at Microsoft as, after, the rolling out and pushing of Apple over the last decade or so, 20 years or so, Microsoft is kind of looked at as a second-rate, service compared to Apple. Everybody's pretty much moved to Apple technology, Apple interface. And if Apple comes out with this type of stuff, you know that people will go on board. They'll be like, I got to get that. Apple's making it. I got to get it. I got to get the latest Apple thing. Now, will there be multiple options? I'm sure, because that's the illusion of freedom that they continue to use, to convince and trick people that they're doing this stuff with free will, but they're not. But Apple with the, with the logo, with the biting of the forbidden fruit, and of course the computer, the 666. I mean, so many things over the years with Apple, which should wake a lot of people up to technology and the connection of technology and the mark of the beast. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.